Today we're going to talk about medicine. We're going to talk about PolitiFact, taking into consideration 1,000 statements from President Trump. We're going to go to Africa. We're going to go to different parts of the world and try to figure out some of the things that are happening in the world, because of course this is the worldview. So let's start today's worldview with talking about medical aspects. Just saw this article from the BBC. An AI tool tested by the National Health System, which is in the UK, right? The National Health System, successfully identified tiny signs of breast cancer in 11 women, which had been missed by human doctors. 11 women. Okay, so this is tiny signs of breast cancer. So this is interesting. Millions of records were sent into the database. The AI went through the database, figured out that 11 women had it. The interesting thing about it is this is out of 10,000 women. Okay, 10,000 women. Most of them were cancer-free, but it successfully flagged all of those with symptoms, as well as an extra 11 the doctors did not identify. 11 people. So 11 out of 10,000. Because if you have 100%, it's basically 1.00, right? So you'd have to go back. So it's 0.0011. 0.000011, right? So we're talking about it's basically zero, right? Now, okay, I will admit that 11 people, if one of them was my mother, my sister, my wife, that's a good thing, right? That's a good thing. But it's interesting, one of the people that they brought up, which is very interesting, is this woman right here. And it says, Barbara, the woman that had her tumor caught, right, said she was pleased with treatment was much less invasive than that of her sister and mother, who had previously also battled the disease. So let's get this straight. You have a sister and a mother who suffer from breast cancer. The probability that you are also going to have breast cancer is very, very high at this point in time. So at that area, it's the same thing as heart disease or anything else. I mean, you shield for that. You test for that. And yes, I don't know anything about mammograms. I know my wife has told me about them. They are very painful. I mean, not painful, but they are painful. So I get it. I understand. But there's a situation there where the AI already flagged her, right? Because she had the sister and the mother, which you don't have to be flagged for that. I mean, if I'm a doctor and I see your sister and your mother have it, the chances are I'm going to put a little bit more effort into your scans because I think there might be something there. But still, 11 out of 10,000. That's what the AI caught. 11 out of 10,000. I mean, doctors are human. That's it. Now, the individual, the doctor in here, stated that he would love to have it as a supplemental area. And I agree. Supplemental AI can always be supplemental everything. But I would not depend on AI, especially not, I would not want AI to sit there and diagnose me. No way, no how. I want a human doctor to take a look at that and tell me what's going on. I mean, I don't want some AI to tell me that I'm going to die of a disease. I want a doctor there, and I want to talk about options and different aspects. I don't want that. So it's very interesting how that all worked. Thought I'd bring that one up. India, undersea race to mine world's battery metal. There's a lot of metal that's located underneath the oceans. Manganese, nickel. A lot of things that are absolutely essential to batteries. So what happens is that India is trying already to get down there and to mine that stuff at the bottom of the ocean. as well as other countries. So they're trying to make that happen, to be able to do that rather than screw up the land, make it less trees and all that. Interestingly enough, though, the minute you start going down there mining this stuff, it's also going to change the face of that bottom of the ocean. So it'll be interesting to see how that all works. But India's going to do this. And it's interesting to see how India's going to do this, because India is part of an ally with China. So they start mining this world's battery metal, and then they start shipping it to China. China starts making the batteries. It's going to be a very interesting relationship there between India and China. E-waste, speaking of that, so now you have e-waste from trash electric devices is piling up, and recycling isn't keeping pace. Recycling is not keeping pace. So what's happening is that this is what's happening. A woman who scavenges recyclable materials for a living walks past marabou storks feeding on a mountain of garbage amid smoke from burning trash in Nairobi, Kenya. So Nairobi, Kenya has a lot to worry about, but the idea behind, well, there was a guy on YouTube, and this is a true story. If you want, I'll give you the reference to the YouTube video. But he put this was many years ago. It was about 6-7 years ago. He put a tracker on his computer. Then the computer, he tracked it all the way to China. And he went there, and there's these big, gigantic piles full of recyclables from computers. And the rain and everything was leaching the silicon and all the other lead and everything else, and it was going into groundwater. China doesn't do any more recycling. They had all the contracts for the United States to do recycling. So now they don't do that anymore. I wonder why. So this is what's happening. Yeah, you got e-waste. And this is not just e-waste, guys. What about solar cells? Are solar cells going to be recyclable? If they're not, where are you going to put them? Where are you going to put the solar cells that you're taking down after 20 years? Right? We're not worried about it right now because 20 years. Yeah, but in 20 years, what happens? You have all these solar cells that are being put up now. They're not going to be any more good. Are you going to recycle them? Who knows? And nobody's thinking about that. And in system engineering, that is one of the areas where you talk about retirement. When you retire any type of system, what happens to those components? What happens to the system? That's the situation. Anyways, thought I'd bring that up too. AP's good job. Close that out. The World War II mission was secret for decades, and now the Ghost Army will get the Congressional Gold Medal. This is very interesting because the Ghost Army they just put up a bunch of camouflage stuff. They put up fake tanks, fake airplanes, fake whatevers. And from the air, it would look like we had more out there than needed to be. The Navy did this before the Army did. The Navy took different ships and would make them electronic signature to be an aircraft carrier, even though they were a frigate or they were a destroyer, or they were not destroyer, but a frigate or something smaller than that. And they did that. They did that for a long, long time. So camouflage is not camouflage, but faking aspects is very, very important, and it really is a great it's a counterintelligence move here. And these guys were all artists, and it's just a very, very interesting article. I really, really highly recommend people read it, because this is really important. It's really neat. So that's very, very important to get these guys to talk about this and how that all works. It might work in Ukraine. Who knows? Moving on next. Easter egg costs rise as climate change hits crops. Is there anything that climate change is not responsible for? I just wanted to make sure that is there anything that it's not responsible for? It's responsible for chocolate. It's responsible for chocolate prices, gas prices rising, wheat prices rising. What else can we blame it on? Climate change is climate change. It's going to change every single 20, 30 years. The climate accords recorded that it's going to change every 20, 30 years. So why don't we adapt, do the best we can with it, and it'll change, and it'll change back. It will change back. Everyone sits there and says, "Oh, we're never going to get there. We're never going to get there from the 1.5 degrees centigrade." I wholeheartedly disagree, and it has to do with data. Look at the data. Look at the data from 1850 all the way to here. And the idea was, if you 1850, look how much it's increased since then. I dispute that, because the types of measurements are completely different from 1850 to even 1950. They're different, using different things, different locations, different areas. You cannot tell me that for 100 years we measured the exact same area at the exact same time, the exact same season. It just doesn't work that way. So, everybody's panicking. And this is really funny to see, because the media loves this stuff. They love it. They love to get into it, because if it bleeds, it leads. Why report good stuff when you can report climate change interrupting the chocolate industry, which will destroy our Easter? Because it's all about the chocolate, right? Easter's all about the chocolate. Ask any Christian, they'll tell you it's not really about the chocolate. Yeah. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu halts foreign trips by government officials. Why? Why did he do that? Right? Concerns about the rising cost of travel expenses. The guy in Nigeria. Okay, so let's take a look at Nigeria here for a second. Because I love geography. I love to point this stuff out. I love to point out where exactly Nigeria is. So if we go to Nigeria, here is Africa. Here's Africa. Where's Nigeria? Well, let's see. There's Niger, and here's Nigeria. So this is where the cost of travel. Look at what they have to do. Look at where they have to go. Let's say they wanted to go to Chad. All right, what are we talking about here? So let's just get a ruler here. Just from Chad, right? So we're going to go just from Lagos. We'll go from Lagos, which is the capital. We'll go over to Chad. We'll go to here, right here. What are we talking about? Almost 1,000 miles just to get to the next country from Lagos. So there's a lot of distances involved here. And what this guy is saying is, he's saying, I got to save costs. Enough. So that's why they have to do it. So, came under attack, especially on social media, after his government sponsored over 400 people to attend COP28 in Dubai. All right, so let's take a look and see where Dubai is. So let's see. Dubai is over here. Right? Dubai. So Dubai, right? So they had to go from here. This is Oman. And we're going to go to Dubai, right? Qatar, Bahrain. And we're going to go to Saudi Arabia. So, what we have is we're trying to figure out, what's the distance involved, right? So, there is United Arab Emirates, Oman, don't want Yemen, right? So, let's just go to Qatar, right? So, let's go to Qatar. So we're going to go from, because if I were to put Dubai in here, I will bet you United Arab Emirates, right? So basically what we're talking about is here. Okay, so we're going to go from Nigeria. We're going to go from Nigeria, from Lagos, all the way to United Arab Emirates. Almost 4,000 miles. 4,000 miles. All right, so let's take a look. Again, I always love to do this. We're going to take a look at the Americas here. And we're going to go to, again, we're going to find out. So 4,000 miles. What's 4,000 miles? Well, let's see. We go here to here. That's 2,500 miles. So twice across there. That's what we're talking about, to go from Lagos to Dubai, to the United Arab Emirates. So can you see why people would get upset at that? They would get upset at that. 15 foreign trips. 3.4 billion, 2.2 naira, which is $2.2 million or 1.8 million pounds on domestic and foreign trips. So that's why he's got to stop. And that's why he is going to stop, I'm sure. Okay. Sex trade to slavery. UN agency says criminals reap $263 billion a year in profits from forced labor. Sex trade to slavery. $236 billion. A lot of people don't realize how much we're talking about here. But I mean, this is a good bit of money from people that are being kept, traded, sold against their will. $236 billion. I mean, this is ridiculous from that standpoint. Legal profits have risen to an obscene amount, $236 billion a year, UN Labor Agency said. International Labor Organization. That's 2021. So I just thought I'd point that out. Some of this stuff is not really brought up by U.S. media, which is funny because it's AP, so that's the way it goes. Pair accused of stealing battery manufacturing from Tesla and starting their own company. And who are they? Klaus Flugbiel, a Canadian citizen who lives in China, right? And the other name, Yalong Shao, also of Ningbo. These are individuals, Canadian citizen who lives in China. So basically, these are individuals that stole corporate espionage, and ended up starting their own company. So this is a real issue here with that. I'm sure they're may spend some time in jail. Putin says Russian aims to set up a buffer zone inside Ukraine. This is basically what the Warsaw Pact was. The Warsaw Pact in the Cold War was a buffer zone between Western Europe and Russia. Western Europe and the Soviet Union. Now he wants to build a buffer zone inside Ukraine. So this is right down Cold War alley. It's right down Cold War alley. And this is where it's really interesting how that goes. Where before some point we consider it necessary to create a certain sanitary zone on the territories controlled by the Ukrainian government. This is really interesting. And this is what the Soviet Union did. They tried to make every Warsaw Pact country do something for the Soviet Union. I think Hungary was supposed to be industrial, and Romania was supposed to be agricultural, and say that every country had to provide for the communists, because they were all communists, provide for the community aspects. So that's what's happening there. So I think we're going to move on here. We'll move past this area, but I wanted to just point out that PolitiFact did 1,000 statements made by Trump, and those statements, they said, the 1,000 statements, whatever else. What they did is statistical analysis, and I'll bring that out the next show. And unfortunately, when you go in, you try to make a hypothesis. My hypothesis was that Biden and Trump really are about equal from the standpoint of making false statements. Well, the statistical study I did, including chi-square, shows that actually Trump has more false statements. But, and this is a very big but, is that it was 286 done against Biden, 1,000 done against Trump. So what you see in front of you is a very seemingly complicated Excel spreadsheet. And this is what I did. I took the PolitiFact number of true, mostly true, half true, mostly false, false, pants on fire, as PolitiFact does, and compared them against the number for Biden. Now, so what I did was I took them and I compared them in different ways. And I wanted to show you this real quick about how I did this. But just to let you know, this is where I got this. PolitiFact article 2024, it's funny. What PolitiFact learned in 1,000 fact checks of Donald Trump. And it's interesting, PolitiFact has hit a milestone. We published our 1,000th rated fact check of Donald Trump. Now, it's interesting interesting how by doing this, I don't think that PolitiFact realizes it, but by doing this, what they're doing is they're giving Trump more attention. He loves this attention. If you want to read a good book, and I'm going to tell you this book, and you need to read it, it's called Raising Trump. And it's by Ivana Trump. Now, she's dead now. But that book was very revealing to me. Very revealing. How Ivana, who escaped Czechoslovakia while the Russians, the Soviets, were taking control of it in '68, came to the United States and caught the eye of Donald Trump, married the guy, and then, probably of anybody that I've heard of to be that close with Donald Trump, she controlled this guy. She knew exactly where his buttons were, and she could control him. And it was amazing. Raising Trump. It's an amazing, amazing story. How she stood up against his father and, Fred Trump and the rest of them. They just did a great, great job of it. But this is what they do. And PolitiFact doesn't realize that what they do is they give this guy more media attention. They just give him more media attention. It's ridiculous. It's why do that? So anyways, besides that point, they compared them. They compared Donald Trump against Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and the rest of them, right? And it's interesting because I'm not even going to compare Trump to Obama, although you can see he had 71 false and a couple of pants on fire, 9 of them, right? Compared with 184 for Donald Trump, which is interesting because the Poynter Institute, which does this stuff, I don't know. It's interesting how it all works. It's interesting how it makes it just works this way. It just so anyways, that's their claim to fame. Their pride is 1,000 fact checks on this guy. So what I did was I tried to objectively compare them. So number of Trump to number of Biden. This was from those charts. True, mostly true, half true, mostly false, false, pants on fire. My hypothesis was that these are not basically independent, that they are dependent on one another. That's number one. Number two is that Biden actually has more false or pants on fire than Trump does, given that there's 286 and that 1,000, right? So what I did was I did an expected Biden, expected Trump based on the goodness of fit for chi-square, and then I did their chi-square for a test of independence, and what I found is that they are not independent. So it's good. That's a good thing. There is an association between Biden, Trump, and their relative truths. In other words, they're not independent, which is actually a good thing. It shows in Biden's favor is basically what it does. Now I normalized them. Both to 1,000. From this 286 to 1,000, I normalized Biden's to 1,000. This is what his expected area is. So true is 36. Biden's expected would be 87. Mostly true would be 85. His expected would be 244. Half true would be 123 here. Half true would be 244 here. So then 195 mostly false to 192. So that's pretty close. But other than that, 377, 206, 184 to 24. So in all these tests that I've done, and but the goodness of fit here, there's a significant difference. I did a goodness of fit, and there's a significant difference between this is the chi-square test here, way below alpha here, which means there is a significant difference between Trump and Biden, and even given the 1,000 and the 286, still is a significant difference. So and the percentage here, and then Trump percentage versus Biden percentage on this. And as you can see, the differences here except for the mostly false, 20% versus 19% of mostly false. So in that case, in this case right here, even though it looks like 195 versus 55 is so different, they're not that different when you normalize them. When you normalize them, they're not that different. But everything else is. I mean, you have mostly false, pants on fire. All these areas is really something to take a look at and to understand. And chi-square has not done that much, and this is what really upsets me, even on studies, because what chi-square does is it takes two seemingly disparate data sets and relates them from a normalization procedure. So this is nice to be able to make that work. So my hypothesis basically was rejected. I thought that these would be very close, and in fact they're not. 5% difference here, 15% difference in mostly true, 12% difference in half true, and then only a 1% difference in mostly false, and then 17% difference in false, and then a 16% difference in pants on fire. So I thought I'd throw that out at you. Here's some of my formulas if you want to try to do it that way. And please check my work, right? Check my work. It doesn't matter to me, but that's really it's a bummer from the standpoint that I made the hypothesis and it's rejected, but at the same time I did it objectively. I did it objectively, as objectively as possible. Now, the bottom line is this is 1,000, this is 286. What would happen if you took Biden and you took his 1,000? Are you telling me that there's nothing above 286 for this guy? Nobody has, been sitting back and saying, hey, there's only 286 times, which means Trump just speaks more. Yeah, yes, probably shouldn't, but he speaks more. And he says things off the cuff, which he shouldn't. Same thing here. It says things off the cuff, which he shouldn't. So that's pretty much it. And I just wanted to share that with you, and we can move on to the next story and move on to whatever you'd like to hear about, of course. And if you want to hear stuff, just let me know. Let me put it right here. CANDR at statisticssleuth.com. This is it right here. So please, just let me know. It's okay. There it is, right there. There it is, right there. So give me an email. Make sure it's what it's all about, right? Am I doing the right thing? And on to the next story. Cut. For a second. This is our President of the United States. President of the United States. Said he told Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu the two of them were headed to a Come to Jesus meeting over the issue of getting humanitarian aid into Gaza, according to a video clip posted on Friday. This is from Reuters. Well, I hope that we covered all the things that we were supposed to cover today. And didn't get too emotional in the process, and I'm sorry if I do. It's this passion thing that comes through. But I would like to thank you for watching, and again, I put the email on that in the Excel spreadsheet, so take a look at it, and if you'd like to comment or you'd like to state some things you'd like to have covered, please let me know. I will cover them. I will research them. I will do whatever needs to be done to be able to satisfy the customer's needs. And in the meantime, thanks again. And always, always, please, please stay healthy and have a worldview. Take care.